Hey, this is Al McGee with your entertainment ticket at www.yeticket.com, baby. Yeah. Well, the film I'm going to talk about right now is called Loving. Loving? Ooh, well, what is this? About hippies? No. This is about a couple who really changed lives and helped change lives here in America in the 50s and 60s. Well, the director is Jeff Nichols. He also wrote the screenplay. But what is this about? Well, this is about the loving couple, Mildred and Richard. During the 1950s, Richard is white, Mildred is black. So during the 1950s, there was still a lot of racism going on in America, which they had some laws that was very racist. So what happened to them? Well, in around 1956, 57, they were in love. They were together. So they wanted to get married. Now, let me give you a little bit background of the couple. Now, Richard and Mildred, they hung around each other. Blacks and whites, there in Virginia, they hung around each other. They worked together. They raced cars together. They went over to each other's homes and had dinners and things like that. So Richard and Mildred had developed a relationship, and they was deeply in love. So what happened in the 50s, they went to Washington, D.C. to get married because it was illegal for them to get married in Virginia as a interracial couple. So they go to Washington, D.C., they get their papers, things like that. Then they come back to Virginia to live. While she's pregnant, according to the film written by Jeff Nichols, she was pregnant. Police just marched right into the house without a search warrant or anything like that and just arrested them. Why? Because the sheriff and the deputy and many people in that county were very racist too. But they were in love. They went to court. They told them that they were guilty of the law and they had to leave Virginia for 25 years. They went to Washington, D.C. to live. And Mildred didn't like that because the kids was growing up in the streets. In Virginia, they had land, grass, trees, open air. So they decided to move back. So what happened? They finally got a lawyer, a good lawyer, that is. And the lawyer worked for the ACLU, and the ACLU helped them out where they went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court finally said, this is unconstitutional and illegal. The law was struck down in every state in the nation, and they live a happy life. Now, what I mean by a happy life? Well, they lived together. In fact, Richard really took care of Mildred. They had 3 kids, and one thing I like what the film showed, Richard is played by Joel Edgerton. He's Australian. This guy played a very good role. I really believe that he was Richard. But it showed that Richard used his hands. He was the type of guy that you really don't see too much these days who work with his hands. He worked on cars. He did construction. He fixed things. He built a home for Mildred and the kids. Built a home there in Virginia for Mildred and the kids. He worked with his hands. Now, I don't know how much education he had or didn't have. It doesn't matter. He worked with his hands, and he took care of Mildred and his kids. Didn't leave them, didn't mess around with other women, according to the movie, but also I saw a documentary about it, read things about it over the years. They were totally in love. Now, let me talk about the cast a little bit. Ruth Negga, she played Mildred. She's from Ethiopia. Nick Kroll was in this. Michael Shannon, Marton Csokas, John Bass, Bill Camp, David Jensen, Terri, and Sharon Blackwood. Now, I will say this. When they got ready to go to court, they was a little lackadaisical about going to court because, they really didn't trust the system because, the system was still racist. In fact, when their lawyers went to the Supreme Court, they didn't go. They didn't go to Washington, D.C. and sit there in the stands so they could, so the Supreme Court to look at them, but they won anyway. And they were happy about that. Also, it showed, too, in the film how Life magazine and finally TV programs finally got on their side to say, hey, this is wrong. This shouldn't be going on in America. You know, finally it was in the 60s when all this finally happened, and it finally struck it down. Now, the director, Jeff Nichols, working with these actors and the story, I liked it because he didn't sensationalize it in the film. He made it just like their life should have been or could have been, and he did not go over the top with this. You know, he really made this very human. I'm giving this film, Loving, 3.5 palm trees out of 4, or 3.5 stars out of 4. It would touch your heart, touch your brain, but not only that, the acting and the story and the love that you saw between these two people, or at least these actors and actresses, and the characters that Jeff Nichols created, man, you really, really felt for them, and you really endured, and also you really cheer for them. Loving, great piece of film, 3.5 palm trees. From me, Al McGee at www.yeticket.com. Thanks for watching.
This is your entertainment ticket. Latest and greatest movie.